Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Rainmaker's monthly webinar series where we explore top-of-mind topics in revenue and profit optimization and discuss how to best resolve the challenges that hotel executives and their teams face. Leading our presentation today is Lynn Wasserman, Rainmaker's Director of Customer Success, and we are also joined by a special guest this month. In addition to Lynn, we have Julie Walsh joining us, who is an Area Director of Revenue for Benchmark, a global hospitality company. Today, they will be giving you a health check on your systems and strategies. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. All of your lines are on mute, so if you have any questions, please submit them via the questions window, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. So without further delay, I will turn things over to Lynn and Julie.
Why, thank you, Brenna. Hello, everybody. Again, I'm Len, and you'll hear Julie's voice in a second. The really cool part is between Julie and myself, we have over 30 years of revenue management experience in today's webinar. So I'm only sad to say 29 with me and 1 with her, but no, just kidding. It's actually more split, but I didn't want to age myself. But on the screen is Julie on the left and I am on the right. But in actuality, here's really what we look like. I just had to put the fun pictures first so you could see us. As we go through today's webinar, you can keep in mind our email addresses if you do want to reach out to us after for any reason. If you have questions about the Rainmaker side of things, feel free to keep my information. If you do have any questions about what Julie may say or what I might say, but you actually like her better, feel free to email her too. So as Brenna said, welcome and thank you. And we're going to kind of jump right in. So welcome to your annual health check. Let us help you optimize your revenue management strategy and systems. This session will offer you advice on how to evaluate your revenue management experience, continue what you are doing, and stop what you no longer need to do. We'll also show you some items that you should add to your daily, monthly, and yearly routines. So, we've broken this session into 6 main categories. And by looking at these pictures, you're probably wondering how this all ties into revenue management, revenue optimization. So the first one, that's your digestive system. You know, it's similar to your day-to-day activities. You have to eat in order to stay alive. So this is your body saying, what do I have to do each day just to maintain, right, and to stay alive. The next one, your skeletal structure. You know, this acts as your support system and holds you together just like your team at the hotel does. And next, your musculature. This is made from the strength you gain by practicing and implementing your tactical strategies.
Next, we have the respiratory system, which is all about breathing and producing oxygen, just as your strategy should be. Like monitoring your breathing, your strategy ensures you stay on track and do not get overwhelmed. Next, we have a circulatory system, which is all about form and function. Without blood circulating through you, we wouldn't be here. Just like data flowing through the systems is very useful for us as revenue managers. Your brain and nervous systems are your means to understanding your current health and then using them to help create your future strategies. You need to know how to measure your results in order to know where you stand. All right, so we're going to start with the digestive systems, and we're going to take you back to the basics for a minute. I know we all get in the habit of doing the same routine every day and every week, but when was the last time you stopped to evaluate what you're doing on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis? Which reports do you use that you absolutely could not live without? Which ones could be tweaked a little bit, and which ones do you send out every day, like clockwork, but no one is really looking at? Are you analyzing all of the reports you send out, or were they asked for once and may no longer be important?
If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. Now, Julie and I tried to research who actually said this quote originally, but according to our friend Google, there are so many people, no one really knows who said it first. So as of today, you can say that I said it first. So remember the quote, if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. You know, when you think about this, really say to yourself, when you're going in on your day-to-day basis and you look at what you have on your to-do list for today, Are there things you just do because they're habit, but you don't necessarily get anything from it? So think about, as we go through today's presentation, when you get back home, you should look at a list and say, what are the things I need to continue doing? What are the things I should stop doing? And what are the things I need to add or start doing? Keep in mind, it's not just you that needs to make these decisions. You're just one of the bones that makes up your skeletal structure.
That's right, Len. We all have our support teams, and we need to make sure we're relying on them and the bones within our structure, which are made up from all of the different departments of our hotels. While we're thinking about what changes we want to implement this year in 2019 and even for future years, we have to remember to use our teams, and we have to adapt to this ever-changing market. We always hire new people in our team, whether it's sales coordinators, front desk agents. We want to make sure they're trained properly in all of the systems that we use each day. We want to make sure they really understand that we value their opinion, and together we make up the structure of our team. Does your sales team understand your strategies, whether it's your rates or your restrictions? Do they know their MAR rates and their high compression periods? Do they know that an extra commission or a rebate takes revenue right from the bottom line? There are many factors to consider when we help quote rates.
Does the front desk understand what revenue management is and that the restrictions and rates we have in place are for a reason? Do they understand how they can help by upselling to a suite or a bigger room versus just giving a free upgrade in order to increase the revenue for the day? How many times have you been to a restaurant, and in my case that might be McDonald's a few too many times, but you hear them say, would you like fries with that? Or would you like a salad? Or would you like an appetizer? Or more commonly at some places, would you like a drink? When they try to push you to the more expensive alcohol, right? Restaurants are great at upselling, but it doesn't have to stop there. The front desk is the main line of communication with our guests, and they should have the tools and knowledge to help increase incremental revenues as well. Remember, it's easier to keep a guest returning than it is to find a new one. Not only can your team help you with internal changes, but they can help you stay up to date with external changes that are going on in your comp set and your market.
All right, so to maintain our muscles, they need to be used. So can you all use your mouse and just raise your hand on the little icon bar? If in the last 6 months you went to go visit your primary comp set, had a drink at their bar, walked around their lobby, met with their sales team, really got to interact with your competitors. All right, I see a couple of hands going up. So some of you have a little bit of homework to do there. Give you another second or two. All right, a couple more. Okay. Now, who in the last 6 months has looked at your own website and compared what you're selling to what your competitors are selling, whether it's a package, a promotion? Oh, we have a lot more hands now. It's going right up the chain. Okay, looks good. All right, who last year attended a market outlook event like HSMAI or CBRE to really understand how 2019 was going to look for your market? All right, just a couple of you. So maybe again, some homework out there.
It was interesting watching the hands come up. Last week, I was able to attend a Smith Travel or Star presentation and see the results, like what Julie was saying. It's incredible sometimes to sit and listen to what the experts are saying are going to happen into the future. So make sure if that's on your radar, if it's in your area, if there's some way you can get to those sessions, definitely something you want to consider. All
right, so one of the first things that I like to do when I take over a hotel is go through a checklist that I have. I like to follow up so I can really understand kind of what the new hotel is that I'm taking over, what the comp set is, what they're doing, what the market looks like. But really, once I take over one of those hotels, I don't really update that information as much. And I should probably follow up on it, a couple of times a year. What's new is going on in the market with the competitors. As an area director of revenue, I don't get to see my properties as often as I would like to. So here's a nice little picture of Google Maps, and I definitely like to kind of stroll around the property or the city and kind of understand just not only where I'm sitting, but where my competitors are sitting, what restaurants or arenas are they near. So that's one of the things that I like to do first when I take over, but really just to kind of help me see how far I am from a competitor and what the competitors are doing on their websites.
So taking that to the next level, Julie, here's where I did my map on the Google. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself. And this is where I sit, just so you can see me. I'm actually waving. You just can't tell right in that little picture. But I do want to point out, since this is a health check, Julie, walking around Google does not count to your daily steps. Just want to make sure you know.
All right.
Hey, so when was the last time you looked at the events section in GuestRev to ensure your revenue management system has all the needed information to properly price your hotel? Figuring out what's driving your main compression periods, that's very important. Have you reviewed any auto-detect events that may show up from your RMS? These are some things that the system wasn't educated on, but then it caught. So something else to keep in mind is how can you educate for future and be proactive versus letting the system catch it as the demand suddenly skews things a little bit. Do you work regularly with your market managers, for your OTAs? Keep an eye on your content. Make sure that what you're showing is what you really want to show. Keep track of how your scores are showing on your OTAs. If you're getting hit with some bad reviews, you want to be able to make sure you're responding and keep track on that as well. And speaking of content, know what's going on with your comp set. Are they offering new amenities? Do they have an evening social hour? Do you need to add something similar? Maybe they started offering breakfast because there's a new select service hotel coming into the area that always includes breakfast. And think about it. When was the last time you updated your PVC analysis, or maybe you worked on a SWOT analysis for your area? Has someone done a renovation lately? How does your meeting space stack up? Who's getting the group business? Contract tours and airlines. Think about all those different things and where they might be going in your area, so you can really tell. Now it's a new year, it's a new time. Let's see if we can figure out what's coming to your area and how to respond to it, right?
Yeah, and then, one of the big things that I'm seeing with a lot of my competitors is the smart accessories. So in the guest rooms, where are all your business transient clients going? Are they going to the new hotels with the smart accessories? And taking that another step further, do you know what room types your competitors offer to your business transient accounts? Is it more of just the standard rooms? Do they offer a different price range? Do you have opportunity to then upsell some of your deluxe or premium room types at a higher rate during your high season? And are your competitors doing something similar? When looking at your comp set, how much of your room mix compares to your customer mix? And does it make sense for the area you're in? Do you have enough double beds to fit the leisure families coming in? Or are you definitely more in a BT midweek and you just need some kings or queens and you're all set? Really understanding not only your room mix, but your customer mix too. It has to make sense for your market. Some of the pieces of information that we should all be updating on an ongoing basis. And I know we were just using our muscles to move our mouse, but we want to make sure we're keeping our muscles healthy. We need to keep working them and remember to breathe.
Yes, remember to breathe. And think about this. In this ever-changing world for hotels, what are you doing to keep in step with your competition? Sometimes you need to stop and take a breath just to give you a chance to process. Other times, you need to make sure your cardiovascular system is in shape as you are now running a marathon. How fast are you breathing? Think about that. If I was just going to run around this room right here, I could sprint really fast and I'd be okay. But if I was going to go run around the 5-mile parking lot, then I'd want to pace myself a little better. So take that in mind when you're saying to yourself, understanding your property needs versus other kinds of hotels, having the right tools for each property that, to do your job. And remember, it's not important enough to just have the right tools, but calibrating those tools properly sets you up for success. Just like monitoring your breathing ensures you stay on track so you don't get overwhelmed.
Now, of course, the most important tools for our success is our revenue management system. So besides implementation, when was the last time you checked to ensure all of your room types were mapped correctly? Did you change your room count after a renovation? Maybe you added some ADA rooms and you forgot to map those. Were there any new upgrades to your PM system? I know one of my properties, and I won't say whose fault it was, but somebody missed something where, the guest rep was getting everything correct from the new property management system, but RevIntel, was missing and still synced to the old system. So just make sure everything is accurate after you do a system upgrade. We need to make sure that all of our mapping is communicating. Understanding our RMS and the demand trends that it has, what are the peaks and what are the valleys, and what do we agree with the ultimate forecast at the beginning of the month, and what information are we giving it or telling it, like Len mentioned, with the events and other things that are going on in our area. What are we giving it for information to increase our revenues further than's predicted? And is there anything last minute that happened that either helped or hurt that forecast, whether it was weather related or something else?
Having the right business intelligence tool is always extremely helpful, and knowing your information in that tool is accurate is even more helpful. When mapping is done with GuestRev, the same mapping should be done for RevIntel. So they're looking at the same market segments and room categories. Have you changed your market segmentation or your strategies? Are you seeing a shift from discount to promo or OTA to business transient? Those things.
In Group Rev, we have our group booking evaluator. And besides implementation, when was the last time you really looked at what was loaded? Do we have the right profit margins? Has they changed? What about your cost per occupied room? Has that gone up or down since last year? What are our food and beverage minimums? We want to make sure we're keeping all of the information accurate on the back end. And really, this is a health check, right? So after this, go back and look, what are these costs and have they changed and do they have the right information in it? Also, make sure you're working with your sales team to put in the true concessions, all of the rebates and your commissions. We need to make sure we're giving the system as accurate as information as possible.
Think about your competitive rate shopping tools that you use. Make sure you're looking at the right time frame when you're doing these things. Make sure you're evaluating it based on the right restrictions. If your length of stay average is over 2, then you probably shouldn't be shopping one-night stays out in the market. You really need to make sure you're looking at what is representative of what you want to compete with, as well as what they're really selling for those clients that you're targeting. We can ask the different travel agents to send us screenshots of how we look in their system, so we can better optimize our GDS visibility and description. It can help you identify if a rate plan is no longer distributed to the GDS or if the rate loading instructions have changed. This one's really important to think about because there was one time when, as a GM in a former life, we couldn't understand why one of our biggest clients, or maybe not one of our biggest, but one of our, let's just say top 20 clients, wasn't staying with us anymore. So we finally catch this after a few weeks wondering where they'd gone. And when we reached out, they just simply told us they thought we had been sold out every time they looked because for 3 weeks we weren't showing up in their GDS screens. So definitely something to keep in touch with. Double check, reach out to your top clients, have them send you a screen so you can verify that you're showing up appropriately. Understanding your channels. This is the wave of the future, and for many of you, you've been talking about this for 2 years now. In Revintel, there's a channel dashboard that shows KPIs surrounding your channel production. It's a great screen to help your hotels target the most profitable channels. You know, it's the whole goal in everyone's world right now is how do you move your mix? You know, how do you get it to be more profitable, sell the right room to the right client at the right time? So we've previously discussed reviewing your market and understanding your competitors. This is taking that to the next level. You complete those items, now use them to maintain your health.
All right, so I know we've brought content up a couple of times, but it really is the key to our leisure strategy to ensure we need to ensure our website is up to date. All of the new packages, promotions, we need to know what's going on in our market. So how many of you have, say, Google Alerts set up to know what your competitors are doing? Did they launch a free night promotion for off season? Maybe even they launched something for peak season. Maybe they started including a hefty resort credit. I know there's plenty of offers in the past that my resorts never would have considered participating in, but we are seeing a lot of our top players offering some amazing deals, and they're stealing our guests. So it's just something that you as a team should start considering, looking at similar offers to stay in competition with what's going on.
And as Julie said, no one likes it when their guests are stolen. So something to think about. So Julie, as you're working on these promotions and such, we really need to make sure everybody follows up with whether they're a success or a failure. You know, use something like our Revintel product to look at the market segmentation and pace reports. You know, this is a great information to see which companies are now pacing up, which ones are pacing down, which wholesalers may be up or down. Do you need to put a fence just to slow them down if they're going too fast? Maybe you need a promotion to push them higher. You know, this is the thing where you need to measure your success or your failure, because what you don't want to happen is, you know, 6 months later, you're like, hey, let's do that same promotion when you don't even know if it worked, right? So these are things to keep in mind.
Yeah, Len, and you know, in addition to some of the reports you just mentioned, I like to keep an eye on my change year over year and evaluate my length of stay, especially for peak season versus low season, you know, my booking windows, see how that's changing year over year. It can really help target some need months and by day of week. So the length of stay report is definitely one of my favorite reports to use. But Len, you know what? I don't really want you to hyperventilate right now. I want to make sure you keep your breathing in control as you manage this ever-changing world your hotels are in.
Blood circulation, and I had to say it like that, sorry, blood circulation is one of the most important functions in the body. It supplies oxygen to the brain and other organs. It's what makes our bodies work, just like data to revenue management. Now, it's important, like if you've been sitting at your desk all day and you've just jumped on this webinar, it's important to remind yourself every once in a while you have to stand up and get your blood flowing. Now, that's a little more touchy-feely than you'd expect in a revenue management workshop, but make sure as time goes on in your day, stand up, clear your head a little bit, because if you're looking at data and going into this whole deep dive craziness, sometimes you just need a minute away from your computer. Right, Julie?
Right, Len. I mean, it just helps my eyes looking away from my computer every now and then. But, you know, also in addition to just making sure we're, you know, getting our blood flowing and everything, we need to make sure we have the right tools to take the next steps. And having the right data is integral to everyone's success. So you want to make sure you're all looking at the appropriate information to keep your strategies in line. We talked about organizing the reports that you don't need and maybe integrating the new reports we could be using. But have you stopped to think about the reports that RevIntel already has for us? That's not one of those manual, dreaded Excel files, with the ones with all of the macros that I personally always break. And I know one of the biggest things that I'm guilty of, and I'm sure many of you are too, is we just need to make sure we move away from the quote, "We've always done it this way." So really make sure you're looking outside of the box of what the tools that Rainmaker has for us to use, because a lot of them are very helpful and they're a lot less time consuming than some of the things you're doing manually.
Now, this slide is kind of strange to include in a webinar presentation, but I wanted to prove a point with this. So we've talked over a few times about the importance of sharing with your team and having your team understand revenue management, and the better they understand what you're trying to accomplish, the more that they'll be able to help you put those strategies in play. So I just throw these webinars randomly on the screen just to say, it's not just for you. Feel free to invite your team to this. If we're doing something like accomplishing the 5 rights of revenue management, which we did a few months ago, that's a great session to have your front desk people listen to, so they can get a feel of what your revenue managers are really trying to do at your hotels. The other thing to keep in mind is we do also send out release notes every time we've done some updates to our system. And we want to make sure that when you see those come up, and when you see that pop up when you're going to our programs, make sure you're using the most current best practice items. We may roll out a new report in RevIntel, or maybe a new feature in GuestRev, something that will make your life easier. But if you don't see it in the release notes, maybe you don't know about it and you don't follow through, and then you don't see it, and it takes a little while for you to learn the new quick easy trick. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Let us help you better your products, and at the same time, let us help you help your teams better understand revenue concepts.
Another thing that I specifically need to remember as well is taking the time to retrain an old staff. We have to remember that's just as important as training new employees. There's always new information out there, new reports, some new tools, especially within the Rainmaker products. So we want to make sure that all of the team members really understand how to use them. I know my hotels are wonderful, but I will say, a lot of the time I do have sales managers or GMs just kind of say, "Hey, what was the final stat on that last month?" Or "How am I pacing with this client?" It's honestly just as easy for them to pull it. So set up some time to spend with them, give them a refresher or even a crash course on the reports that are integral to them, and just give them the tools to really dive into the product themselves, and they'll find there's more and more information that's useful for them than they didn't know was there before.
All right, so here's the big test for today. And if you can just use the hand raising that you were using earlier with Julie. So the word is GIGO. Raise your hand if you think you know what GIGO means. G-I-G-O. Okay, looks like we have one. All right, so I'm going to give you the answer now, because what we found is Julie and we're going to take credit for making up the GIGO part, but we're not going to take credit for what it means. We just had fun shortening it to this 4-letter phrase, or 4-letter word. Garbage in, garbage out. Systems use the data they receive to come to conclusions. When was the last time you stopped to look at what data is coming from your PM system and going to your RMS? Have you put in some new market segments? Is everything mapped correctly? It's not that the systems could break, which sometimes may happen, but it's a lot about the changing time we're in. You're going to have new market segments periodically. You may have new, new rate plans and new room types. So the system doesn't necessarily automatically see these things. So you'll see in something like Revintel where you'll see unknown rate plans and unknown room types. System most likely just doesn't have them configured or mapped. So you should be asking questions about the unknown, figure out ways to get them mapped properly. In our case, it's pretty easy. Support can handle that and fix the situation very quickly. You can also look at where your customers are coming from by market segmentation. That's obvious. Most PM systems have that, right? But the front desk people and the reservations people have to be filling that information in, or else there's nothing to track. How many times have you looked at it and seen you sold, 10,000 rooms in a particular period, but you only have a total of, let's say, 5,000 in your market segments? Make sure that that's happening at the property level.
So let me ask you, I'm pretty savvy with these products, but how can I make them run more efficiently? What else can I do that I may not be doing?
You know what, Julie, that's a perfect question, and the check is in the mail for asking it at the right time. This is the only sales pitch, the only big sales pitch in this webinar, right? And the answer to your question, Julie, is synergy, and the synergy you get when you sign up for all three of our products. You have the RMS Guest Rev, Group Rev, our group pricing tool, and Revintel, our BI tool. So just wanted to throw that out there as a little short sales pitch. And again, Julie, thank you. I'll send you your $20. Now, while Rainmaker has plenty of systems to use, our body and our brain only have one nervous system. We want to use all of the right fitness trackers to ensure we're staying on track to maintain our health. Now, in our case, that's Guest Rev, your RMS, Revintel, your BI tool, Group Rev, your group pricing tool. But you also have STAR. When I was a revenue manager, it was Wednesday night. I used to stay up and wait just to get the reports so I could see how my hotels were doing. And of course, any other initiatives that you're doing, track these things. All of these things are great ways to track your success.
So I know you said I didn't get steps for walking around Google Maps, but how can I use my fitness tracker to measure my hotel successes?
Well, in our case, the tracker number one is our Guest Rev product, right? So we can measure our forecasting successes or failures right within Guest Rev. You can track how often you're overriding the system. You can look to see if it was the right thing to do. Did the hotel sell out? Could your ADR have been higher? And how is your pace compared to forecast? These are all things that you can measure right from an RMS. The ways to see, did what I did work? I can't say that sentence. Continuous checkups on pace through Revintel also help you keep track by market segment and by rate code. You can also track your promotional success or lack thereof success through Revintel as well.
Speaking of the market segmentation report, this is definitely one of my favorite reports that you offer. This report here can, it shows your budget, your forecast, what we have on the books, what we had on the books same time last year, and then where we finished that same month last year as well. And then it got a little bit cut off here, but the grade section actually shows us our reach to budget forecast same time last year, and how we finished last year as well. So really, once I finish analyzing this by month for a specific market segment, I can drill down even further, and I can look at the rate code production. So the next report here is our rate code pace report. And after I know, so here you can see discount in this example, it's pacing up for the month, 1,100 room nights, but down in rate. And you can see it's kind of a shift from our 60-day advance purchase. So we moved over to a 90-day advance purchase, and that's really where that's driving from. So kind of figuring out where your rate codes are compared to last year based on your market segmentation is very helpful. Within Group Rev, there's also a report for your pipeline analysis, and that can be compared to your booking pace. You can use this to track to ensure you have enough in your pipeline to justify the pickup to hit forecast. In addition to some of these Rainmaker products, I know Len mentioned STAR. It's obviously excellent to follow up to see how you're competing with your comp set. And then just keep track of your initiatives as well. So again, just plenty of products within the Rainmaker family to help track how we're doing.
So how healthy are you? With so many areas to focus on, be sure to consider this last checklist when you return to your hotel. First, review your daily activities. Are they the things you should be doing on a regular basis? Things that you should add, things you should stop doing, things you should continue doing. Number two, don't forget your support systems. Rely on them, support them, educate them.
Number three, grow by implementing and practicing your strategies. And number four, we need to make sure that our tools are calibrated properly and your teams are using them more efficiently.
Number five, garbage in, garbage out. Number six, to improve your results, you need to measure your results.
You know, the human body, I know this was a health check, so the human body is an incredible thing, and as long as we're using all the products right, so is Rainmaker.
And one last quote to kind of bring this in for the home stretch. The most dangerous phrase in the language is, "We've always done it this way," from Rear Admiral Grace Hopper. So thank you very much for your time with us. We're going to open it up for questions and see what you guys might have to ask. And then also one other thing is, please remember our email addresses if you have any questions that you didn't necessarily want us to answer in public. Well, I'll put that back up on the screen real quick, and let me see if there are any questions. Okay. Oh, looks like I don't see any questions for today. The one question I have for you, everybody, is we're talking about what kind of webinars we can do in the future. So if you have any ideas for questions, feel free to send those my way. And, oh, I have a cool black screen. And just know my email address is oh wait, do we have a new question? Sorry. Hey, question. Okay. So when you're talking about the question is, what are the most impactful reports in Revintel? And this person, thank you for joining the webinar, very much appreciate it. I think the ones that we talked about today, the ones Julie was commenting on, really are the good ones. The monthly segmentation report that breaks down everything for you is really important. When you sit back and say, what is my daily life like? What do I need to look at? Revintel really has some great reports to look at your day-to-day. It even has some reports that break down room type information. And when you're sitting there as a revenue manager and you know you can make a few extra dollars just by pushing the right room at the right time, those are some of my favorite reports as well. One other person just asked, they're wondering, it's a more internal question, but I'll answer it quickly. They're wondering how to get more training on our products. They're actually a current user. What I would do is reach out to our support line at revsupport@letitrain.com and just let them know, and they can go from there. Or if you have the email for this presentation, you can reply, and the team here will get you in touch with the right person. And lastly, my email address, again, I'm Len Wasserman. My email address is lwasserman, WASSERMAN, @letitrain.com, LETITRAIN.com. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie, for your assistance with today's webinar, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks.